cloud. So that should be an action. Okay, so hola, ¿qué tal?
Hola.
Bienvenidos a la lección 11 de la clase de español. Esta es nuestra última lección antes de Navidad. Vamos a tener un descanso de una semana. La próxima lección es el 5 de enero. I'll send you all the notes, obviously. Hay noticias emocionantes. We all know what "I" means, don't we? The most useful word in the Spanish language. There is, or there is. Noticias is news, and emocionantes. It's a confusing word because it sounds like a close cognate, emotional, you'd say, but in Spanish it means exciting. So there is exciting news. Tengo una nueva nieta. Llegó el miércoles pasado a las 3:52 de la mañana o de la madrugada y pesaba 3.7 kilogramos. Ella se llama Alice Marina. Alice, nice name. Marina, nice name. Her grandma, her Russian grandma is called Marina. So that's after her grandma. So both doing fine. So that's great news. We're glad she finally arrived. She took her time about it. It's in no great hurry. So what have we got on today? Last week we were talking about where we live, and I did this little thing about Peterborough. So we're just going to finish off talking about where we live. Now, I hope most of these words will be quite familiar to you now, and you'll be able to build sentences like this to describe where you live and understand sentences like this too. So we're just going to finish off talking about the places where we live, and then we're going to learn a really important function in Spanish: how to tell the time, how to ask the time, say what time it is, and how to understand what time it is. So last week I talked about Peterborough, and I said es una ciudad grande y moderna. It's a large modern city con una catedral hermosa y antigua. Tiene muchas excelentes tiendas, bares y restaurantes. I thought I should add this. Todos ellos cerrados por COVID. All closed due to COVID. Es una ciudad multicultural con gente del Caribe, India, Pakistán y Europa del Este. Se puede escuchar muchos idiomas diferentes en las calles. Se puede, one can hear. That's a useful little phrase. You do hear a lot. Se puede. Hay buenas conexiones de carretera y ferrocarril a otras partes de Gran Bretaña. Me gusta vivir en Peterborough. Ferrocarril, it means rail, railway. The ferrocarril is the railway. It's a useful word to practice rolling your R's in, because it's got two double R's in the word, and you need to trill your R's. I'm useless at rolling my R's, and I have practiced. I have tried. I've had lessons from my grandchildren, I think I'm just going to have to admit that I'm never going to do it, and hope that people understand a sound rather than a proper Spanish trill. So some questions that you might be asked, or you might want to ask when you're in a Spanish-speaking country. Is there a theatre? And don't forget this word "I," there is. We can use it as a question as well. So, hay un teatro, there is a theatre. You could say, hay un teatro? Is there a theatre? And for Peterborough, sí, creo que hay 3 teatros. Yo sé que hay el teatro aquí y el teatro nuevo en Broadway. También hay un teatro en la biblioteca. Don't know if anybody knows. Is there a theatre in the library now? There's something called John Clare, isn't it?
It's still there.
So, sí, creo que. I believe that there are 3 theatres. The Spanish, we'd say, I think there's 3 theatres, wouldn't we, if we weren't sure. There is a Spanish word, pensar, to think, but when they are, and they do that, they do use that for the process of thinking, but when they're using it as I think there may be, they tend to use crear, to believe. So I believe there are 3 theatres, is the proper translation, the direct translation. But in English, we'd say, I think there are 3 theatres. Just remember that when your Spanish improves and you learn the verb pensar, don't use it to say, I think there might be. Use crear. So creo que, I believe that. Does it have a museum? Tiene un museo. Now we could say, hay un museo, exactly the same. It's just a different way of saying it, and it's useful for us to know these different ways to say it. And the answer is, sí hay un museo muy bueno. También está Flagfen, un antiguo sitio prehistórico. So there is a museum. CI is one of those lovely words. It's fun to say. CI, yes, there is CI, and it's generally said with so much enthusiasm by Spanish speakers that it does sound really good. My dog's being woken up for her walk, but she's not very keen on it yet. There she goes. It's a walk in the park. Okay. She was fast asleep. She's finally realised something exciting's happening. So CI, yes, there is. Can you recommend a hotel? So we've learned this useful word poder, this useful verb poder, to be able, and what we're saying here, puedes recomendarme un hotel. Puedes, are you able to? Can you recommend? Recomendar is an easy Spanish word to remember. It's almost a perfect cognate. And recommend to me a hotel. We can hook the personal pronoun on the end, so we can say recomendarme. Puedes recomendarme un hotel. Don't forget, you can always hook a pronoun onto the end of the verb when the verb's in the infinitive form. It's not conjugated. So, puedes recomendarme un hotel? El Bull Hotel es muy bueno, pero caro. El parking es más barato, también limpio y moderno. Ambos están cerca de la estación. So, can we translate that? Everybody okay with that? Yeah.
Mm.
The Bull Hotel is very nice, pero caro is expensive. Caro, barato, expensive and cheap. We're going to do comparatives in a few weeks' time, so we'll have a whole list of these: long and short, fat and thin, etc. Caro means expensive, and it's a useful one when you're in a market and they don't have prices on there. You can say, un poco caro, and see if they'll give you a bit off. El parking es más barato, it's cheaper. También also limpio y moderno. Now, limpio sounds a funny word. Doesn't sound very good, does it? Limpio. Sounds like a limp Spanish lettuce that's been sitting in a lorry in France for 4 days. It means clean. So it's clean and modern. Ambos, both, are close to the station. Can you recommend a restaurant? So, recomendarme, again, ¿puedes recomendarme un restaurante? Charters tiene un bar con buena cerveza y sidra. Charters has a bar with good beer and cider. También un restaurante que sirve comida tailandesa. Me gusta allí. So it also has a restaurant that serves Thai food. I like it there. I've used me gusta a lot for I like, and it may be creeping into your vocabulary. We're going to do virtually a whole lesson on gusta and gustan in a few weeks' time. So if it doesn't quite make sense to you, you can you just wait, and it'll all drop into place very soon. It's a really useful phrase, and it's used a lot in Spanish to say that you'd like something, or you want something, or you will do something. Lots of uses. So let's move on to telling the time. To ask the time, we say ¿qué hora es? And to ask at what time something is happening, ¿a qué hora? So ¿qué hora es? Is literally what hour is it? And we use ser for time, the verb ser, the verb to be ser for time, because I guess it's an inherent characteristic. It's something that is not disputable, the time. Now, the time changes all the time, so you think, well, maybe we should use a star because that reflects change. But no, we use ser, and I think the reason is because when you ask what time it is that time at the time you're asking, and that's absolutely fixed. So ser, always use conjugations of ser when you're talking about the time. Note that the word tiempo means both time and weather. It sounds like time, so it's easy to remember, tiempo. But then the Spanish never say ¿qué tiempo es? They never say what time is it. They always say what hour is it? ¿Qué hora es? Literally, what hour is it? We'll use tiempo to talk about time, but when we want to know the time, we always say hora. ¿A qué hora? At what time? ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? What hour is it? Remember those two questions. So we always use ora when talking about specific times, such as the time of the day, the time a train leaves from the station, or coffee time, la hora del café, time for coffee, coffee time. We use tiempo when we're talking about time as an abstract concept. So, no tengo tiempo, I don't have time. You'd use it in that sense. You wouldn't say I don't have hours. You use tiempo. So it's used, but not to ask about the time. And there's another word for time in Spanish, rato. And it seems a strange word for time, but I don't know. Maybe from rate. Maybe they have similar roots. Rato. So we can pasar un poco de rato, spend some time. Un poco de rato, a little time. You hear rato used quite often in that context. And here are some useful time-related words. These are all in the lesson notes. So let's spend some time, particularly over Christmas, when we get fed up of watching reruns of Porridge or whatever's on telly. Let's practice some of our Spanish vocab. And I also put a link in the lesson notes to a video from Why Not Spanish, where Maria is talking about time, and Maria's poor American boyfriend Cody is set different tasks, and she's quite harsh on him. If he doesn't get it right, he gets his ear bent. So it's quite a good video for learning, practicing the time. See if you can do better than Cody. So here are some useful time-related words. Hoy, we know that one. That means today. ¿Qué día es hoy? Hoy es martes. What day is today? Today is Tuesday. Mañana. Don't forget we've got the ñ in there, so that gives the first N a ñ sound. So mañana, mañana. Tomorrow. That's one of those Spanish words that we've all heard lots and lots of times. ¿Qué día es mañana? Mañana es miércoles. Pasado mañana is the day after tomorrow. Pasado mañana. Yesterday, ayer, ayer. Anteayer, the day before yesterday. So that puts the week into context for us. We can look forward a couple of days and we can look back a couple of days. And we can talk about things that happened or will happen in the future or recent past. Anteayer. It's one of I've got lots of favorite Spanish words. I like anteayer. A week is semana, la semana. It's a feminine noun. So when we talk about the week, we have to use feminine pronouns, etc. Esta semana el tiempo está muy mal. Hace frío y mojado. Carl, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I was just trying to work out why. Do you know why they use pasada for next week? I always thought it was like for last week. I think it's past pasado. Yeah, it's for the day after tomorrow in the pasado mañana.
Yeah, well, it means past, so the day past tomorrow.
Yeah, but you put the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that right then?
It is right. It doesn't make much sense in English when you think about it, does it? The day after is in the past, you think, but yeah, pasado mañana. Yeah, it is right.
Okay.
And it's pasado because day, even though it ends with an A,
Is masculine.
Masculine noun.
Yeah, but it seems to be past and everything except for the day after tomorrow, which is in the future.
Yeah. Well, we can say the week past, or we can say the day past tomorrow. Think of it like that, and it's sort of makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're passing it a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. So semana, week. Now el fin de semana. We've changed sex. The week is feminine, la semana, but the weekend is masculine. And that's because the way the Spanish construct the phrase, the end is is masculine. So we talk about el fin, and the end of the week, el fin de semana, weekend, is masculine. Just a funny one, might catch you out. So always remember el fin de semana, but la semana. And we could say, vamos a ir a la playa el fin de semana. Don't think we'll be going there to the beach this weekend. We can't come out of a tier 4 into a tier 2, and it's probably going to be blooming cold in nearest beach to me. So we'll save that one for the summer, hopefully. Now we can say la próxima semana, next week. And again, week is feminine here because we're talking about the week, not the end of the week. La próxima semana, next week. La próxima semana me voy de vacaciones. I'm going on holiday next week. La semana pasada, last week, fue el cumpleaños de mi tía la semana pasada. It was my auntie's birthday last week. La semana pasada. Bits of the day. So we have mañana can mean morning, of course, and it can also mean tomorrow. So in this sense, morning, mañana. Me levanté tarde esta mañana. I got up late this morning. Didn't actually. I got up at 5:45 because the dog was pawing on my hand, thinking it was time for breakfast. Tarde is afternoon. Tengo que ir de compras esta tarde. I have to go shopping this afternoon. Noche is evening or night. It doesn't really matter. Esta noche we talk about this tonight, this evening. Esta noche vamos a ir al teatro. This evening we are going to go to the theatre, and we're using ir to create the future tense here, just like we do in English. I am going to go. Vamos a ir. Vamos a ir. Midday is mediodía. Because day is masculine, it's el mediodía. El almuerzo es al mediodía. Lunch is at midday. Medianoche, now because noche is a feminine noun, medianoche is also feminine, so it's la medianoche, midnight. A medianoche salen los fantasmas. At midnight, come out. And a few other bits of the day. Madrugada is the early hours of the morning. I guess that's sort of time 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Mi vuelo sale en la madrugada. My flight leaves in the early hours, we would say in English. Amanecer is dawn. Mañana debemos levantarnos al amanecer. Amanecer, beg your pardon. So tomorrow we have to get up at dawn. Amanecer is dawn. Anochecer is dusk. Al anochecer prenderemos las luces. At dusk, we will turn on the lights. Tarde means late. You might say, apurate que vamos a llegar tarde. Hurry up. We're going to be late. We're going to arrive late. You might say, instead of apurate, you might say, date prisa. Give me time. Give me speed. Give me hurry. Hurry up. We're going to be late. So tarde is late. It's also afternoon, of course. Más tarde is later, and you can also use luego for later if you want to. There's a choice there. Always nice to have a choice. So tarde is later, or is late. Temprano is early. And tarde is late, más tarde is later, temprano is early, más temprano is earlier. So you're saying more early, more late. It wouldn't make sense in English, but it does. Perfectly good grammar in Spanish. Es muy temprano, por eso las tiendas están cerradas. It's later, so the shops are closed. We could also use the word retrasado for delayed. Anybody who's ever commuted from London will be familiar with delays. Retrasados. El autobús está retrasado. The bus is late. Other words that we need to know, the little phrases we need to know is todos los días, every day. And we can also use it for different days. So we can say todos los martes, every Tuesday. Voy a la clase de español. Every Tuesday I go to Spanish class. There's also a phrase, cada día, which means each day. We use those two phrases slightly differently, don't we? Every day and each day, but they mean more or less the same thing. So, cada día practico hablar español. Each day I practice speaking Spanish. So, let's look at the times then. Asking questions. What time? At what time? A qué hora? A qué hora sale el tren para Gijón? What time does the train leave for Gijón? ¿A qué hora llega tu amigo Juan de Madrid? What time is your friend Juan arriving from Madrid? ¿A qué hora es el desayuno? What time is breakfast? ¿A qué hora cierran las tiendas? What time do the shops close? Useful phrases. So it's surprising how often we want to know what time something happens. What time is this happening? So look at those phrases, learn those phrases, and they're they're going to be really useful to you when you're in Spain, particularly if you're traveling about, not staying in just staying in a hotel. If you're moving around, you're always wanting to know what time things are happening. And of course, you will also need this. Hora, hour. We've used a qué hora, what time. We've used it for time, but hora is also used for hours. Minutos, minutes, segundos, seconds. So hours, minutes, and seconds should be easy to remember because they're all cognates or very close cognates to the English. Hora, minuto, segundo. We'll also use quarter and half when we're talking about the time. Quarter past, quarter to, half past. A quarter is cuarto and half is media. Media. So, ¿qué hora es? It's 10 o'clock. How do we say that? The Spanish have a particular way of saying the time, and it makes perfect sense, but it's a little odd to English ears. So we would say it is 10 o'clock. The Spanish say there are 10 hours. What time? It's 1 o'clock. There is 1 hour. There are 2 hours. There are 3 hours. So just if you've not done this lesson before, I know a few of you have, it does sound a little odd at first, but you soon get used to it. It's just a different way of approaching it. So what time is it? It's 10 o'clock. Son las 10. There are 10 is literally what they're saying. It's 10:30. They say there are 10 and a half. So you're saying, ¿qué hora es? What hour is it? They're saying there are 10 and a half. Son las 10:30. It's 10:30. 10:15. Son las 10:15. It's 3:15. Son las 3:15. It's 3 1/4. And if you need to signify whether it's AM or PM, or indeed if it's in the evening, we say son las 10:15 de la mañana. It's 10:15 AM. Son las 3:15 de la tarde. It's 3:15 PM. Will be understood. De la noche. What time does noche start in Spain? I don't know. It varies a bit. It goes on. The afternoon goes on later than it does in England. It's normally evening from when's evening starts in the UK. 6 o'clock news, 5:30, round about then. In Spain, probably starts a little bit later because they in some parts of Spain they close the shops for a couple of 2 or 3 hours at lunchtime and open them again about 4 o'clock. So it goes on until about maybe 7 or 8 the afternoon, the tarde, and after that it's noche. I suppose it's when it gets dark is a good guide. In Ecuador, it's light at 6 a.m. and it's dark at 6 p.m. and it's the same because they're on the equator. It's the same all year round. So it's de la tarde until about 6, a bit like England, and then it's night. So it's fairly easy for us to get my head around that. Doesn't really matter, of course, whether you get it slightly wrong, as long as you be understood. So you might want to say, like we do in English, it's bang on 3 o'clock, or the example I've given, It's bang on 4 o'clock. Son las cuatro, and the word exactly is en punto. In English, we might say on the dot. En punto is on point, on the point. On the dot, we might say in English. And you could also say it's exactly 3:30. Son las 3:30 en punto. It's exactly. We've used son las. I've got a creaky chair. I'm very sorry. My office chair is very creaky. Son las tres, son las 10. There are 10, 3 hours. There are 10 hours. If it's 1 o'clock, or it's midday or midnight, obviously the hours aren't plural at 1 o'clock. So we have to use a different conjugation of ser. Son is there are, es it is. There's only one. It's one. So we say, ¿Qué hora es? Es la una. It's one. Es la una en punto. Because it's singular. So son las, if it's 2 o'clock to 12 o'clock, but es la if it's 1 o'clock, just to make things complicated. We'd also use the singular form of ser for midday and midnight, as I said. So es mediodía or es medianoche. One thing we do in English quite a bit is we say it's nearly 5, it's nearly tea time. In Spanish, almost or nearly is casi. So if we said es casi medianoche, it's almost midnight. And we can use that for any time if we want to say it's almost 11 o'clock. Instead of saying it's 10:55 and having to remember 55, you can just say es casi 11, and it's almost 11. The finer details. So if it's 1:15, if it's 3:15, we'd say son las 3:15. If it's 3:30, son las 3:30. But sometimes you might want to be more specific. It's 20 past, for example, or 25 past. So you could say the minutes as well as the hour. So it's 8:25. Son las 8:25. So it's what we're saying is there are 8:25. That's the time, 8:25. If you wanted to say it's 8:35, you could say son las 8:35. So it's 8:35. Or you could do what we do in English, which is we could say it's 8:35, or we could say it's 25 to 9. And that's so familiar to us that we don't think about it. But when it comes to Spanish, we go, oh, what? Crikey. How do they say it's 25 to 9 in Spanish? They say it is 9 minus 25. So son las 9 menos 25. 9 minus 25 is 8:35. So the two ways of saying that, and it doesn't matter which one you say, just like English, it's completely interchangeable. It doesn't matter one jot. So here are some times in Spanish. Can we say what times these are. Now I'm just going to, because it's nearly Christmas, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot and ask individual questions. So let's just take a couple of minutes, and I want you to write down the Spanish for each of those. So somebody comes up to you in a Spanish-speaking country and says, "¿Qué hora es?" And we want you to tell them what time it is in Spanish. Now, don't forget the son and the s, important. I'll give you 3 minutos. You're all still here. I've just put the kettle on because I've got some more questions after these. So it's now 5 questions again, the other way around. You ask somebody the time in a Spanish-speaking country, and this is what they say. So can you say what time it is? La hora es medianoche. Son las 4:30 de la tarde. Es la 1:15 de la tarde. La hora son las -10. 11 menos 10 de la mañana. Son las 9:17 de la noche. What times are these? While I make myself a cup of tea, you write down the times in English, and then we'll have a look. So, quick cup of tea. It's not really had a chance to brew properly, but here we go. Okay, how did we get on? 10 a.m. So that's an easy one, isn't it? Son las 10. Son las 10. 10 a.m. de la mañana. Son las 10 de la mañana. 6:30 a.m. There are 6 hours, so son las 6:30. 6.5. Son las 6:30 de la mañana. In the morning again. You could say son las 6:30. It's 6:30. I don't know. Whatever you like. They're all correct. It's all correct. Midday is mediodía. Es mediodía. 1:20 p.m. Es 1:30 de la tarde.
Viente.
De la tarde. 20. Yeah. 20. 1:20.
Do you need a Newton at the end?
No, not really. No, I mean we wouldn't say that, would we?
No.
No, we'd say 1:20. They'd say it's 1:20. I mean, it does sound weird, but it doesn't sound weird to a Spaniard, to a Spanish speaker. It's 4:15.
In that one for 1 o'clock, Eric.
Yeah.
When it's more than 1 hour, you put in the las.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need the la with the una, or do you just miss that out?
No, I'd say as I'd say no, I'd say as la 1:20, strictly speaking. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you're asking how many hours are there, you'd say la una. They often use the direct article in Spanish where we don't in English. So in Ecuador, I was always referred to as the Eric, not Eric. Made me feel quite special, as if I was the one. But that's just what they do. La Lucy, El Thomas, El Eric. It's they use that a lot more than we do. 4:15 p.m. There's more than one. There's 4. So son las 4:15, and it's p.m. So de la tarde. How do we get on with those? Everybody okay with those?
Yeah.
Well, we'll practice a few more. And you can use the 24-hour clock as well if you like. So if somebody says, what time is it and what time does the train leave? You might be told it's 13:50 or something like that. So we'll learn those. You have learnt your teens, so you should know that.
Thank you.
Makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, the other way around. You ask the time, and some Spanish says to you, "La hora es la medianoche." What time is it? So it's midnight. Medianoche. Son las 4:30 de la tarde. It is 4:30, 4:30 in the afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Es la 1:15 de la tarde. It's 1:15, 1:15 p.m. de la tarde. La hora son las 11:10 de la mañana. It is 10 to 11 in the morning. So it's 11 minus 10, 10 to 11. It does sound funny at first saying 10, 11 minus 10. It's still confusing me this morning, clearly, but it does mean it's 10 minutes to 11. Son las 9:17 de la noche. So it's 17 is 17, of course. So it's 9:17
9.
in the evening, de la noche. 17. Okay. The only way to get familiar with this is to practice it lots and lots. And the more you practice it, the more familiar you become with it. It's pretty easy stuff, but because it sounds alien to our English ears, it does take a little bit of getting used to. Don't worry, just stick with it and you'll have it in next to no time. Here are some useful questions. A qué hora abre el museo? A qué hora, at what time? What time? Abre, it opens. What hour it opens the museum is how they would say it in Spanish. Now we're going to have to, that sounds really really weird in English, doesn't it? But we're going to have to get used to how not only learning the Spanish words, but how the Spanish phrase their sentences. And we wouldn't use that order of words in English. We would say, what time does the museum open? In Spanish, they say, at what hour opens the museum? It opens the museum. So you have to have the correct conjugation of abre, to open, and that is abre for it. If we're talking about something plural, we want to say what time do the shops open? There's more than one shop, so we have to say they. So it's abren. So a qué hora abren las tiendas? Because there's more than one shop. If it's just the shop, abre la tienda. So let's just start getting into our head this peculiar way that the Spanish phrase their sentences. Now we're talking about times today, but next week we're going to be talking about finding our way around and location. So we're going to do a little bit of that. Let's just start a little bit of that now. Hay una farmacia cerca. There is a pharmacy near, is a question. Is there a chemist near here, is what we'd say. Hay una farmacia cerca in Spanish. You could change cerca for por aquí. Cerca means close. Is there a pharmacy near? Or you could say por aquí. Por aquí is near here, by here. Hay una farmacia cerca? Hay una farmacia por aquí? Podría recomendarme un buen restaurante? Could you recommend a good restaurant to me? ¿Me puede decir si hay un hotel por aquí? Can you tell me if there is a hotel nearby? ¿A qué hora cierra el centro comercial? Again, at what time it closes? The centro comercial is a shopping centre. What time does the shopping centre close? If we're talking about shops in plural, a qué hora cierran las tiendas? We have to conjugate the verb cerrar in a slightly different way to close. So What time does the shop close, the shopping centre close? What time do the shops close? We have to make it plural there. Están abiertas las tiendas los domingos. Now, we would say, are the shops open on Sundays? The Spanish say, they are open, the shops, the Sundays. Again, this makes no sense whatsoever in English. We just have to start to get our English brains around how they phrase sentences in Spanish. And as soon as we click into it, it just starts to make sense, and it's obvious. We don't even translate it in our heads anymore. We just know that's the way they say it, and that's how we continue. So have a look at those sentences there. I put them in the lesson notes. So just have a look at them again. Frown at them and get the Spanish way of phrasing a sentence into your mindset. Now we are talk about there are some. Now we can use the word algunos or algunas for some. So we want to say there are some restaurants around the main square. Hay algunos restaurantes alrededor de la Plaza Mayor. Because restaurant is a masculine noun, we have to say algunos. Tienda, the shop, is a feminine noun, so we say algunas. Hay algunas tiendas en la calle al lado de la iglesia. There are some shops in the street at the side of the church. So a couple of words there, to useful words to remember: algunos, algunas. So we've got some words here. Now I've put these in the lesson notes with the English translation, and I've put a slightly longer list in the lesson notes. We'll go through those next week, but these are nouns. These are places that you will find around the city, and these are places that you may need to ask where they are, ask directions to, or if you're receiving directions in Spanish, you need to have these as landmarks. So they're useful nouns to know. El museo, museum. El parque, it's the park. Now, this is easy, isn't it? El bar. There's also el pub, el tabana, el osteria, la posada, all mean somewhere that you can get a drink. Supermercado. And the great thing about these places in Spanish is a lot of them sound very similar to what they are in English. El restaurante, el teatro, la iglesia. Ayuntamiento is a town hall, or the local authority building. Farmacia, el cine. Un cajero is a cash point. Cajero automático, you may hear it said, but because the Spanish are lazy like the English, they'll often just say un cajero as a cash point. La Plaza Mayor is the main square. La Plaza is just a square. La Catedral, cathedral. La Tienda, shop. El Centro Comercial is shopping center. Oficina de Correos is a post office. And El Estanco Now, I'm not sure these still exist. It's something that's in all of the Spanish school textbooks, and it's an estanco is a sort of tobacconist that sells stamps, and they used to be quite common in Spain. Now, there's not many tobacconists in England. I can't think of one specialist tobacconist, and there used to be 2 or 3 in Peterborough. So I'm not sure if that thing still exists. I do ask people, people who go to Spain quite often. Some say, "Oh yes, it does." Others give me a blank look, so I don't really know. But that is a word. Now, there's also in the list, there's bakeries, shoe shops, dry cleaners. So there's quite a long list to remember, and have a crack at memorizing those over the Christmas holidays. It's always hard, as I say, to look at a list and memorize it. Try to put them into sentences, practice your sentences, and try to get somebody to give you a little test. If you write some questions out in English, get somebody to ask you what the Spanish translation would be, and get those. Now, that's the end of today's lesson. I did include some homework over Christmas, learning those nouns for places that you might need. I put a little video and some information in about a chap called Carlos Gardel. He was a very, very famous composer and singer, composed lots and lots of tangos. He was an Argentinian, French-born Argentinian. And he was massive. He was like the Elvis of South Latin America in the 20s and early 30s. And you will have heard some of his work. He wrote a famous tango called Por una cabeza. And it's been used in various films, and it's played by buskers in Spain on the violin quite frequently. You will have heard it. And I've also put in there one of his poems called Volver, which is also set to a tango. So take a look at that. And there's also a little bit of revision there. So I know you'll be bored over Christmas and you'll be looking for something to do. Just practice those. It's not so much practice, because I think you already know them and you'd be pretty good at it. But just remind yourselves. Can I say hello? Hola. Of course, it's easy. Have a go at it though. Okay. Thank you very much. That's our first term gone. I hope that if you couldn't speak any Spanish in September, you can now stumble through a few awkward sentences. That's quite an achievement in just 10 hours teaching. And those that have done this course before, I think some of the lessons that you learnt last year will have sunk in a bit more, and it all makes a lot more sense to you now, hopefully. Have a great Christmas, everybody. Have a great lockdown Tier 4 Christmas. And I'll see you all in the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cheers, Eric.
Cheers,
everybody.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Happy Christmas, everyone. Happy Christmas.
Bye.
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 Bye.